The rain poured relentlessly over the city, turning its glittering skyline into a blur of glass and sorrow. Aisha stood by the window of her apartment, her trembling fingers clutching a half-empty cup of coffee gone cold hours ago. The lights of Lahore flickered in the distance, a city alive with noise and movement. Yet her heart beat in painful stillness. It had been 2 months since she last saw Arham, the man who had promised her forever, and yet here she was, alone, replaying memories that once felt eternal but now only stung like broken glass pressed against her soul. They had met 3 years earlier at a friend's engagement. Aisha remembered every detail, the scent of jasmine in the air, the golden glow of fairy lights wrapped around trees, and Arham's effortless smile that melted her guarded heart. He wasn't like the others. He listened, really listened, as if her words carried gravity. Their connection had felt instant, magnetic, two souls pulled together by fate's invisible strings. Within months, they were inseparable. Late-night calls, endless laughter, and whispered dreams about a shared future. He was gentle, ambitious, and endlessly affectionate, the kind of man who remembered her coffee order and her favorite verses from Rumi. But love, Aisha would later learn, is not always what it seems. The first cracks appeared subtly, a missed call here, an unanswered message there. Arham became distant, his eyes clouded with secrets. He'd brush off her questions with soft reassurances. "Work's been insane lately, John. Don't overthink." And because she trusted him, perhaps too much, she silenced her own doubts. When he began traveling frequently for client meetings, she believed him. When he forgot her birthday for the first time, she forgave him. Because love, she thought, was about patience, about understanding the person you choose to stand beside through storms. It was a Friday evening when the truth began to unravel. Aisha was scrolling through social media, half distracted, when a photo caught her eye. Arham standing beside a woman in a red silk dress, her hand resting possessively on his chest. The caption read, "Celebrating new beginnings with the most amazing partner." Her heart froze. The count belonged to Arham's colleague, someone she had met once at a company dinner, Zara Malik. The same Zara who often called him during dinner, who laughed too easily around him, who always seemed to find excuses to discuss work after hours. Aisha's world tilted. Her breath came in shallow bursts as she stared at the screen. The image, smiling faces, clinking glasses, shimmering lies, seared into her mind. For hours, she sat there, numb, her mind racing through every late night, every vague excuse, every broken promise. And slowly, painfully, realization dawned. The man she loved, the man she defended, was living a double life. The next morning, she confronted him. He didn't deny it. There was no shouting, no tears at first, just silence, heavy and suffocating. Arham stood by the doorway, guilt etched across his face, while Aisha stared at him, trying to recognize the stranger who wore her lover's face. "How long?" she finally whispered. 8 months, he said, his voice barely audible. "It wasn't supposed to happen. I didn't mean to hurt you." The words were meaningless, drifting like ashes in the wind. "You did hurt me," she replied, her voice trembling. "You broke everything, the trust, the dreams, the us." For weeks after, Aisha moved through life like a ghost. Friends tried to reach out, her mother called every evening, but she couldn't find the strength to speak. Nights were the hardest, when silence echoed and memories returned like waves crashing over her resolve. She replayed their first kiss under the rain, the promises whispered in the dark, the laughter that now felt like mockery. Every reminder cut deeper. But heartbreak, as cruel as it is, also teaches resilience. One morning, she woke up to the faint light of dawn filtering through her curtains. Something inside her shifted, a fragile spark of defiance. She got out of bed, washed her face, and looked into the mirror. The reflection staring back was tired, yes, but also stronger. That day, she decided to rebuild, not to forgive Arham, but to free herself from the prison of what once was. She quit her job, the one Arham helped her get, and started her own digital design studio. It was terrifying at first. Every logo she designed, every pitch she made, felt like an act of rebellion, reclaiming her life piece by piece. Months passed. Slowly, her laughter returned, genuine this time. She found peace in small things. Morning walks by the canal, painting on weekends, coffee with friends who reminded her that love doesn't end with betrayal. Sometimes it begins again in self-discovery. But fate wasn't done with her yet. Nearly a year later, their paths crossed again, unexpectedly. It was at a corporate event where Aisha had been invited as a guest designer. Arham was there too, standing beside Zara, now his wife. He looked older, worn out, his smile forced. When their eyes met across the room, time seemed to freeze. For a brief moment, she felt the old ache return. But then something surprising happened. She felt nothing. No anger, no longing, just a calm detachment, like watching a storm that had long passed. Later that evening, he approached her. "You look good, Aisha," he said softly. She smiled politely. "I am good, Arham." There was strength in her tone that startled him. He fumbled for words, perhaps hoping for forgiveness, perhaps closure. But she didn't owe him either. As she turned to leave, she realized something profound. The opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. And she had finally reached that peace. Over the next few months, Aisha's business flourished. She collaborated with international clients, her designs featured in magazines, her confidence blossomed like spring after a long winter. One afternoon while working at her studio, she met someone, Rayan. He was a photographer, gentle yet grounded, with a kindness that came without pretense. They began working on a project together, a campaign celebrating second chances. As they spent more time together, laughter returned to her life in ways she never expected. But this time, she was cautious. She knew love could be beautiful, but only if it was honest. When Rayan finally confessed his feelings, Aisha didn't answer immediately. "I've been broken before," she admitted. He nodded. "Then let's build something honest from those broken pieces," he replied. His words weren't grand or poetic, but they were real, and that made all the difference. Years later, as Aisha stood by that same window overlooking the city lights, she smiled. The rain still fell, but it no longer felt cold. It reminded her of cleansing, of renewal. She had once believed betrayal ended her story, but now she knew it had merely changed its direction. Sometimes the heart must shatter for the soul to awaken. And as Rian's voice called her from the kitchen, warm, steady, familiar, she turned away from the past and walked toward her future, her heart finally whole.